This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakuraco. Attack on Titan is a widely diverse series with characters that paint the spectrum of characters from authoritarian dictator-like personalities, racists who realize the error of their ways, and simply the men and women who take the orders and do what they are told. In other words, everyone in Attack on Titan is morally gray. And that was done on purpose by Isayama so that we could sit here today and discuss and break down these extremely complex characters. However, due to this, there are many misconceptions about Attack on Titan that do plague the series. Some innocent and some that just make you question how people came up with that line of thought. So today, we're going over 5 misconceptions about Attack on Titan. And be sure to comment some misconceptions you notice in the community, as if this video gets enough likes and support, I will do a part 2. With that out of the way, let's do this. But you'll find no misconceptions with the fantastic monthly snack box Tokyo Treat and Sakuraco boxes when you use the code SeaTactics to get $5 off your first purchase. Tokyo Treat comes to you every month with high quality and delicious snacks like their exclusive Kit Kat, Ramune, ramen, and so much more. With the monthly snack box Sakuraco, you get to elevate your snack game with authentic and traditional snacks from local artisan snack makers, which also comes with extra goodies like this dish and this drinking cup. As well, each month you get an amazing and high quality cultural guide booklet, which features short history crash courses on each of these snacks and so much more. So let's see what I got in the May box for Japan's Golden Time. All right, here's all of the snacks all out here in a row, so you can see a nice little arrangement we got here. I can't help but feel like this is my best sponsor ever, but one of the things that caught my eye was sparkling apple juice. So I can't wait to taste it. And it seems like every month ramen bowl they give you, which is actually really freaking cool because I love ramen, as does many people. And of course, the best thing in every single box, of course, the Kit Kats. This time it's banana caramel. The one thing I'm really looking forward to is this Sakura Boucher. This is basically like a pastry. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff right here. So let's now move on to the Sakuraco box, which, oh my boy, I don't know why I'm saying that, but oh my boy. All right, here's the first impressions of the Sakuraco box. First off, we have rich bread Ogura. I've never had this before, but oh my god, it looks so good. This is like a strawberry a cake. I don't know if the camera does it any justice, but all of these stacks are so freaking delicious. And these right here, oh, I don't know if you guys have ever had Genji pie. It's incredible. You guys have to get this if you've never had Genji pie. This right here is called Sakura Uiro. According to the little pamphlet you get in every box, gives you a little bit of history, and this was apparently originally enjoyed by the wealthy classes in the Edo period. If you know anything about Edo period, that's what your boy loves. Your boy here loves me some Blade of the Immortal. So I'm going to be eating this and pretending I'm a high-class samurai or shogunate, and I'm gonna love myself. This right here is a Sakura sweet potato. You know I'm down for this. As you can see, cake on the inside. It looks so freaking good. This right here is called Hana Warabamochi. Apparently this also originated in the Edo period, and it was made as an offering to the gods. Now, what is this exactly? Because it looks very unassuming. It has cherry blossoms inside of it, so you get to eat some cherry blossoms as well. And of course, we have Sakura Cream Gaufrette. This is a cream sandwich with, as you can see, sakura and cherry blossoms on top of it, because Japan apparently be all about that pomp and circumstance, and I'm here for it. And of course, last but not least, we have your peach hibiscus tea, branded with Sakuraco. So there you go. They're teaming up with other companies to bring this tea to you. And with it, you get a glass. This right here, I love this. I love seeing this stuff. This really makes all of this box worth it, in my opinion. You get little stuff like this, and it makes it worth it because it shows that there are two companies that care about you, and they want you to have an experience. Sakuraco and Tokyo Treat, for that matter, are both experiences you definitely want to have at least once or twice. So go check out Sakuraco on their website and enter the code SeaTactics. I get some kickback from it, and it helps me quite a bit. Our first misconception misconception is a big one, and a good one to start off this list, and that is the misconception of there being no protagonists or antagonists in the series. I mostly see this when people are discussing why they support the idea of genocide and why it's the right choice, but I do see it with other topics as well. This misconception does bother me because I think that what people really mean when they say there are no good or bad guys in AOT is that everyone in the series is actually just morally gray. To explain what that means, it's basically the idea that good guys do just as much bad stuff as the bad guys and vice versa. A great example of this is with Annie's character. She starts out as a girl who betrays the Survey Corps and basically gets off on, squishing all of her comrades or even practicing her wrist technique. Pretty nice. However, in the final season, when Annie's character is fully fleshed out, we see that she is merely a victim and a survivor of her environment and knows. Not a cold-blooded killer, as she was made to do awful things like killing people, which she was praised for, raised by a father who saw her as a means to an end, to live a comfortable life in retirement, and, well, her government, who only saw her as a literal and figurative weapon. Now, on the flip side, for the people that say there are no protagonists or antagonists, they are kind of just wrong! The protagonists of the series are actually pretty simple to figure out, but they are also very fluid from season to season. In season 1 and 2, the antagonists were the Titan Shifters and Pure Titans. In season 3, it was once again the Titan Shifters, but as well the corrupted government of Paradis like Rod Reese. Then finally, in the final season, we have a couple like Marley's military and the Jaegerists. And some will argue that the Jaegerists, as an example, are not the bad guys because there are no morally perfect people or the dichotomy of good and bad. This argument is sort of perplexing and very wrong, as they are the bad guys, clearly, because as the definition of antagonist is, it is a person who actively opposes or is hostile to someone or something, an adversary. The Jaegerists directly oppose the Survey Corps and Paradis' government, as an example with them overthrowing their own military. We also know this because the air-quote good guys have sort of been established since the beginning, which is the Survey Corps. After all, they represent the symbol, the Wings of Freedom, which fight for the day humanity can finally be free of the Titans. And so, the Jaegerists, Rod Reese, Marley, the Titan Shifters, these are all factions, people, and groups who want to propagate the exact same things the previous people, regimes, and governments of the past did, which is oppression, murder, racism, genocide, whatever they believe in. And the Survey Corps and Paradis, after season 3, are pretty much the good guys. They fight for freedom and for what's right. With that being said, this is where people get confused with Isayama's brilliant portrayal of the morally gray. Just because characters are morally gray doesn't inherently mean that everyone is bad or good. What this means is that the characters are faced with very hard situations where there is only two choices, or not even that, and both of the choices are technically not good or aligned with their own morals. For example, this is seen at the end of Final Season Part 2 when Connie is forced to kill Samuel L. Jackson, that is his real name, and Daz, the latter of which Sasha even saved at one point earlier in the series. Because they need to get on the boat to Odaya to repair the plane and save the world from Eren and the Jaegerists. Connie, in that moment, when he killed Samuel and Daz, did not want to make that decision, but there was literally no other decision they could have made. In that moment, it was either kill his friends and fellow Paradisians, or be killed by his friends and fellow Paradisians. Basically, yes, there are good and bad guys in Attack on Titan. But to say there aren't any because of Isayama's use of the morally gray is an inherently flawed argument. But hey, that's alright. It's just an anime after all, no hard feelings. But of course, if you do disagree, do feel to vocalize that in the comments below. The second misconception is that y'all thought that calling dibs on Mikasa would work. Well, it didn't. Already called dibs. Of course, just kidding, but not really. The next misconception does have to do with Mikasa's character, which is that Mikasa is bad, boring, simple, trash.
Mikasa smells.
Mikasa's not cute. About as intelligent as I don't like Mikasa a lot. I wouldn't. Mikasa is Tsukasa, bitch. Obviously, Mikasa is better. It's in the game. Did you know I made a same about Tsukasa for SeaTactics and I does not cross anymore. Anybody is super hard dragon all sea. whatever the narrative you pick, because Mikasa doesn't have a character or develops an Attack on Titan. That's pretty much the misconception. So I guess this is a 2-for-1, but this one irked me so much, I even did a video on it prior. I even did like 3 videos on Mikasa, now that I think about it. Check those out up in the cards. But anyways, the misconception that Mikasa's character doesn't have, well, any character development is false, but understandable. The point of Mikasa's character and her role in the series is to represent many different ideals, and as well the one to oppose Eren in his descent into a Titan-induced sanity. In fact, I do often find her character harder to pinpoint because she's so recluse and solemn that it's hard to get a read on her most times. I actually do like to compare her to Thorfinn in Season 1 of Vinland Saga. Both characters are very solemn, and when they do express emotions, it is either a deep sadness and depression, or is one of opposition that borders on violence and stoicism. However, the way Mikasa develops throughout isn't, say, as much as Eren is, which is the reason I think most people say she's boring and doesn't have any character development. Yeah, sure. Compared to Eren outright, Eren changed so much, both visibly, mentally, and even in the way he even speaks. But that's because Eren had a lot to develop, as many people will forget that he was one of the most hated characters in all of Attack on Titan before he grew long hair and became a symbol to incels. I'm joking, by the way, that's a total joke. Was none other than Eren McRubbling himself. And Mikasa is actually a very interesting character to talk about because all of her development happens very silently and internally. Eren is very fast, very obvious, and out in the open, but we never get monologues from Mikasa about what she's doing or what she's thinking like we do with Eren at times. So to illustrate some of her development, in the beginning, Mikasa of her life was a helpless little girl, but to protect Eren like how Eren protected her, she became a true Ackerman, a killing machine that would snap a Titan's neck for Eren. And to me, that's a very powerful character motivation. A love so intense that goes beyond just passion and lust, that goes beyond just friends, and blurs the line between a deep and intense love to a familial and sisterly bond which really cannot be broken. And when Eren develops, on the other hand, in turn, Mikasa also develops. Think of it like a pirate wheel. When a handle turns, all of the other handles turn, and Mikasa and Eren are just a part of those handles. They develop together. Obviously, I can't argue to someone that their subjective opinion that Mikasa is boring is wrong. I mean, they're free to hold that belief, but I do want to give a perspective that I think is more subjective at the very least. Mikasa is not a character that is based around just sipping or loving Eren. She is her own person, which is in the entire point of her character in Season 4. During this season, she is trying to figure out how to deal with Eren and not just be selfish in her desires and protect him like she always did. Now, he is the enemy, and Mikasa just so happens to be on the opposite side. She still loves him, like a brother, and even more than that, just as much as Armin probably does, and he as well is in the same boat as Mikasa. But that wasn't Mikasa's character in Season 1 through 3. Those seasons, she was much more, well, one note. Just like how many people said Eren was one note and the worst character in AOT prior to Season 4. We just had to wait a bit for their stories to develop, and really we shouldn't judge too quickly before we see where the story was truly heading. If you don't believe me, go back. Watch those earlier scenes with Mikasa and compare Season 1 through 3 Mikasa to Season 4 directly, and you will indeed find that what I've said is, well, true, because, as I said, Mikasa's character is much more subtle than people actually realize or give credit to. Our third misconception deals with our third member of our messed up family, Aramin. Our boy may have had a glow up in Season 4, but to some, this character is garbage and one of the worst ever because he doesn't use the Colossal Titan, and he doesn't do anything in Season 4. To me, this is like the issue with Mikasa. It simply comes down to people comparing Armin to Eren and ignoring all other character development because, Eren is the cool guy who is out here with the Founding and Attack Titan having 3v1 face-offs with Marley's finest. However, this is simply not the case when it comes to Armin and is really the misconception we're kind of getting at here. For one, we have to address the whole Colossal Titan thing. Many people are saying because he's not transforming into the Colossal Titan like nearly every other episode and not using it to fight that he's like some wussy character. However, I think with people who hold this misconception, they probably forget we only saw the Colossal Titan like 3 times in the entire series prior to Season 4. And not only that, in Season 4 it is explicitly stated that the Colossal Titan cannot be used more than 1 time, and the only thing it's good for is strategic use of its detonation transformation. Hey, I'm a poet. So going by the actual canon logic that the show gives us the viewer, Armin is by far the best user of the Colossal Titan because while he's only used it once in Season 4, it was used to full effect, which is not something we've ever seen from that Titan prior in the actual series. If we're talking about history, probably Marley is the better user, but yeah. You get my point. And of course, we're talking about the climax to raid on Liberio, which saw Armin use his transformation to wipe out Marley's entire navy in one fell swoop, which would also destroy much of Liberio beyond their waters. In the entirety of Season 1 through 3, there was 0 successful transformations from the Colossal Titan that would help complete the mission successfully, if that makes sense. Armin is so far the only Colossal Titan wielder we've seen to excel at using the Colossal Titan. And make no mistakes, Barclophicus was a pretty solid wielder of the Titan, but he was more of a hollow puppet being controlled by a pretty mediocre leader in Reiner, let's be honest. But in other leaders' hands, as we've just discussed with Marley, he would have been amazing, and he was amazing. But compared to Armin, it's pretty clear that only with one transformation, Armin used it far more effectively, despite the first Colossal Titan transformation devastating Paradis, much like it did Marley and Liberio. After all, these two sequences are meant to mirror each other. The other, which I think is flat out wrong as well, but understandable, and I do see people warming up to it over time though, is that Armin being a useless character because all he does is cry and moan about Eren and is super whiny and blah 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 blah. This is quite ridiculous because it's another example of boiling down a character to a one-note label by people, but the reason this misconception is wrong is because Armin throughout much of the series is brave and the only one to constantly put his money where his mouth is. Remember, he stuck his neck out to prove that Annie was the female Titan because he knew he was right. He also knew the best choice in Liberio was to use the Colossal Titan to gain the advantage to rescue Eren, and once again, he was right. After all, because of Armin's actions, they were able to extract Eren and defect Zeke. Armin, as well, is the first to throw a punch at Eren when he disrespects Mikasa, showing he is not afraid to fight even his own brother from another mother. The point is that Armin's character is not even close to being whiny, useless, or wussy. He's actually much like Erwin. He's fearless, brave, heroic, and of course, stoic, which is exactly why Isayama mirrored Armin's glow-up in Season 4 to look closely like, well, how Erwin looked like. Armin is a mirror of Erwin in that regard. Go back, check out Armin's character because you'd be surprised to find that, much like Mikasa, there is a lot of hard work put into Armin's writing from Isayama, and to deny that for whatever reason it is just not being fair or realistic about the character entirely. Our next misconception strikes deep with some of the more, shall we say, problematic fandom, but it wouldn't be the first time they've brigaded me. Flock Forrester and the Jaegerists. The misconception here is that Flock and the Jaegerists are the good guys because their actions were justified. So the bad guys of the series are actually the Survey Corps, and that Armin, Mikasa, and the entire Survey Corps and Paradis military are basically traitors. This is a big issue and I see it a lot, and that's because characters that are justified for some mean that they can do no wrong, which is sort of understandable. I understand why somebody would think that, but Attack on Titan, as we've certainly just talked about in this video, is more than just labels or actions. It's a whole spectrum for each individual character. So when people say Flock and the Jaegerists are justified, they are actually 100% correct. Make no mistakes, the Jaegerists are true to their word. They wanted to save their people from Marley's eventual genocide of Paradisians and Eldians. However, that's just about where the conversation should stop in terms of justifications. This does not mean the Jaegerists are somehow the shining beacon of hope for humanity. That is utterly false. The reason for this is simple, and it's seen throughout their leader, Flock Forrester, who overthrew his own government, betraying them, and then going out of their way to kill innocent civilians as, to quote Flock, he wanted to get rid of all of the people who spoke ill of their leader, Eren Yeager. In reality, the Jaegerists represent an authoritarian movement that are actually worse than the previous people to overthrow the government, and arguably just as bad as the government before that. Many people will say, well, they're mirroring when Historia took the throne. And while that is sort of the case, we are clearly shown by Isayama and the staff at MAPPA that just because there are justifications, that does not mean they are right, as righteousness and justification are two separate words for a reason. The Jaegerists are straight up the big bads of Season 4, and that is undeniable, even if they have a good reason or justification for doing it. Also, chances are if your faction is based on the biggest evil known to man, then
what are you doing? Making a mistake. Making a mistake.
Finally, we have the man of AOT himself, Erwin Smith. This is something I see combated often in the community in many ways. Saying this is probably more of a cell phone for people when I see them bring this up in arguments on comments. Of course, that is the misconception that Erwin Smith would be a Jaegerist. This one is a very hot topic, but I think with only a little analyzer you could prove that Erwin would probably never be a Jaegerist. Many people say he would be because Flock and the Jaegerist are deeply inspired and motivated by Erwin in one of his ideologies, which is becoming a devil. It's to the point that even in the final season part 3, Flock in his dying words even calls his Jaegerist devils. However, the reason I think people say this is because of that inspiration. Otherwise, most people aren't really saying this because Erwin and every other facet would never support any shred of ideology that the Jaegerists have. And we could simply prove this by Erwin outright stating his motivations throughout the series. He seeks to know about the mysteries of this world and will willingly face tough decisions in the eye to persevere and get through what needs to be done to reach his target goal. Erwin is, in a word, ruthless with his motivation, which is why he says he will become a devil to forward his and humanity's interests and needs. People who say he is a Jaegerist will often cite the example of him being an inspiration for Flock and his ideals. However, Flock severely misunderstood Erwin as a person and misjudged who he really was. That's Flock's entire character. Erwin would sacrifice literal life and limb to save his comrades. He felt he was ultimately expendable. He relied on others like Armin. He often would make many mistakes, and of course, he was just a really solid leader. The Jaegerist ideology is sort of just become authoritarian dictators and take away others' freedoms so that people don't talk bad about Eren and that, of course, they can carry through a genocide. Basically, Flock watched Fight Club and totally missed the point, if you want to think about it that way. But we've reached the end of the video. That is 5 misconceptions. Comment below what are some misconceptions about Attack on Titan that you've noticed. Also, as well, be sure to check out my video on why Erwin wouldn't be a Jaegerist. I love you all, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.